Incredible.
Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today we're going to begin to answer notes on the grid. We're going to look at some of the reasons why you might do things, and we're actually going to construct a small song. So first up, we need to take note of a couple things. The first one is, let me show you something. So the first one is we look at our BPM, we check that, right? Oh, 155, okay. The next one we look at is our lines per beat. So we notice it's 4. So that means that, we already talked about this, but one more time, that means that every 4 lines, we get to a new beat. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4. At 4, in this case, it's technically 5 if you were to count from 1. It would be, that's beat 2. And then we have beat 3, beat 4, and so on. So at 16, we're at measure 2. This also means that our highest resolution is 16th notes. I'm going to ignore delays, and I'm going to ignore the ability to change resolution right now, because I just want to keep it simple for people who are brand new. But that's something we need to keep note of, is like, oh, we're limited to 16th notes right now. Okay, cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my track, and I'm going to name it, let's name it bass or ARP. I'm going to name it an ARP. We'll start with the bass though. So what I want to do is I need to load up a sound so I can begin to give that sound instructions, right? So I'm going to go to samples. I'm going to go to basics, and I'm going to go to sawtooth. And now if I play this, it's way too low, right? So I'm going to hit F3, and I'm going to transpose it up 36. We've already talked about these moves, so it should be crystal clear. I'm going to hit F1. Cool. Now I'm going to write in a bass line. Now if I put in a note, let's enter edit mode. So now I put in a note, and you see that my cursor moves down 1 automatically. You're able to control how it moves, and it's very, very useful. You want to get a handle on this. So you see down here we have this little arrow that's like skip lines. It's pretty much what it means, skip lines. So every time I hit a key, it's going to move me down 1 line. So I could say, no, every time I hit a key, move me down 8 lines. You see, I just went down 8 lines. So the fast way of changing that number, whoops, see if you hit delete or anything, is you hit control and then the number you want. So I just hit control 1 and switch it to 1. If you hit control 2, 3, 4, 5. So you see, this is very powerful, because if I hit 2, for example, that's basically saying skip me in 8th notes, versus 4 is like skip me in quarter notes. 1 is useful for just editing in a little spot. And if you have 0, you won't move when you put down a note. So that could be useful for a whole bunch of reasons. So I'm going to be consistently moving this thing around. So if you see that happening, that's what I'm using. And it's super important to get a handle on it. I'll probably mention it every now and then just to keep it in your head. That way you'll remember it better when you go to do this. So I'm going to put down my note. And first, let's just make a really corny bass line, and then we'll make something a little bit cooler. So first I'll put down a C, and I want to put down just a basic line. So I'm going to hit control 2, and that will move this to the 2. So I'll be putting down 8th notes, and I'll put down C. So I'm in measure 2 now because I'm on C. So at measure 2, I'm going to switch to a G. And then I'm going to go. Whoops, I went a little too far. 32, 40. So you get the idea. But now we have no note off command. So our notes are triggering. And because there's 1 note line. So it's not that you might be going, but the notes are changing. So it has to have like a change command or something. It just updates the command. If we had 2 note lines like this, and you do that by hitting the plus up here, or you hit control shift over when you're in a note column. So if I'm in a note column, I can hit control shift over or the other direction to add or delete note columns. But if I do that, this note will never update. So that actually sounds kind of cool, but we're going to ignore that for now. It's also outrageously loud, so we should probably turn down our track a little bit. Now I want it to be more staccato. So I'm going to leave it so it skips every other line. I'm going to put off commands to tell the notes to turn off. So you just do that by you can hit cap locks or A. So I'm just going to hold it down because that's the magic of the skipping power. Now if I hit play. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to hit end to go to the bottom, hit shift and hit home. I selected them all. And now in order to delete the stuff that's in a track, you have to hit shift delete and it will delete it. So now let's write in something a little bit cooler using eighth note still. So I'm going to use my MIDI keyboard. It's a little more intuitive, but I am used to this keyboard. It's just a real piano will always be faster to me. So here we have this. And so now I'm going to add in my off commands. So see, I just played it in. You could go through and sequence it. I thought of, and all I'm thinking is, what are my chords? What's my chord progression? So I went A minor. Then what did I do? I did A minor, E. I did an inversion of the E major chord. And then I think I went to F and then something else. F, yeah, F, A, C, and then G. So it sounds like this. And then at the end, I did this thing that I'm not the biggest fan of. So let's go back to that. Now I'm going to audition it. So I'm going to hit Shift Space Bar to start from where my cursor is. And then that's the note I don't like. Let's try that. See, I like that more. And now I could try, let's see what this sounds like an octave up. Or even an octave higher. And because it's being recorded into OBS, it gets a lot more noise. I assure you it's way less noisy on my end. But I'm going to go down to the bass. I like that one the most. And I think it would sound cool with a delay. So let's add a delay. Now this delay is being added to the track. So, and I'm going to turn on the line sync. I'm going to assume you know what effects do from the mixing series and the sound and synth basics series and the sound design series. You know, I have lots of series explaining effects. So I'll probably go through the Renoise effects, but not in this series. I'm just going to assume you have a general grasp on effects. So I'm going to go to 2. And I'm going to turn down the send. And so, yeah, we'll run with that. And so, okay, cool. Maybe even add a verb. That would be kind of cool. MP verb. So you see, just begin to add effects. Now, if I call that same sound on track 2, it will not go, as you see, it doesn't go through any of the processing. So that's important to know. So let's add in a kick now. So, okay, we've got our notes in there, really great and dandy. Let's go search for a kick. So I'm going to use a kick from a pack by Black Octopus Sounds called Wicked Drum Hits. I think they're cool kicks. So let's go in here, look for a kick tune. And we're working in A, so I'll look for one in A. I'll just live with this one for now. So we have A, 0. And so that is our kick. And I'm going to hit Control 4 to switch my skipping to 4. And then I'm going to play. I want to hit a C4 to play back at the correct pitch. And I'm already on C4, so that's convenient. And we'll play it down. And here we go. I'm thinking maybe a chorus could help this too. So, whoop. And see now here, I think it'd be cool to have my sound be even shorter than it is currently. So I'm going to go to my sawtooth. I'm going to move up to that instrument and I'm going to hit F3. I'm going to go to the modulation tab and add an envelope, an 80, this type of an envelope. So yeah, so there's attack, hold, decay, sustain, release. That's what all those letters stand for. But basically, I want it to be shorter. So I'm going to take my release off, my attack down. And I'm going to assume I cover stuff like this in my Sound Synth Basics course. But now it's going to have a pluck at the beginning of the sound. We'll just make it a pluck. And then it'd be cool to maybe layer that in, right, with another version of it. So I'll add a bass. And now this bass is going to embellish that. and I'm going to use the same sound. So, but it's not going to have the processing of this track, but it will have the envelope, right? Because we added the envelope. There's a glare on my screen, so I can't see what's up here anymore. I'm going to add the envelope on, I added the envelope on the modulation tab. So it's going to occur on the sound, as you can see. So I'm going to, let's see a low note here. And then I want this to happen every 8. So, and then we went to E. And then we went to F. And then we went to G. And then this is really low. So I'm going to hit and shift home. I'm sure there's a better way to do that. I just haven't learned it. I'm going to bring it up an octave by hitting the +12 over here. So that's why I like having that open. And we talked about that earlier. And so pretty self-explanatory. Selection and pattern. Raise them 1 octave. So now let's add in a, I've been avoiding typing in commands, but let's add in a hi-hat. Let's add in a snare first. So let's go to other. I'm going to go through my snare folder. Renoise comes with sounds too, so you can dig through there, but I like these more. So I'm going to go to a new sample slot, and let's run with that one. So I'm going to put it on 8 because I want it to land on my upbeat. So beats 2 and 4. And so this will do that for me easily. I'm clipping. We'll ignore it for now. That's like another discussion entirely. So now I want to add in a hi-hat. So I'll go searching for a hi-hat. We could get creative and draw a hi-hat, or we could even take one from the snare. Let's take one from the snare. What do you mean take one from the snare? Well, check this out. So I just copied and I just cloned my snare, and then I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to rename it hat. And that does not make it a hi-hat, just named a hat. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select a piece of noise from the hi-hat. I'm going to copy it out. So that's Control X, hit Control A to delete it, and Control V to paste the thing you stole. And so here it is, our noise. Sounds like that. And I'm going to increase it or normalize it. And that's just to get there's no point in having it be that soft. So cool. I'm not worried about noise floor on this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control 2, and I'm going to put down actually, I'm going to have Control 1. I'm going to have this thing going the whole time. But I'm going to have the volume increase and decrease. And so we have these extra columns here that I've been ignoring. But if I were to, so you see right here, I have pan, delay, and effects. And you see more columns pop up. I only care about the volume column right now. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to start at a loud level and decrease to a low level. And so for reasons that I'll explain later, we use hexadecimal to do this. But I'm going to start at a volume of 80. And over the course of 2 beats, I want it to decrease to a volume of 40. Let's go to even lower. Let's go to like 20. And then I want it to increase over the course of 2 beats back up to 80. Okay, and so this one's now going to be softer, but the other ones will still be loud because this is a per line command. So this will go back to the original loudness. So I have to fill in this space. And I could go in and type in all the numbers, but that can be tedious. And since it's in hexadecimal, a lot of times you might end up counting wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift Alt. That'll allow me to select only this column. I'm going to select from the 80 to the 20. And then I have a command called interpolate, and you hit Control I. It will put all the values in between. So I can do that. And then I'm going to hold Shift Alt again and go down and interpolate one more time. Control I. So now I have the values that go in between. I'm going to select that whole thing by hitting Control Alt page down. That selects them. And then I'm going to paste it a bunch of times. So now instead of it being abrasively in your face the whole time, it's going to go, one of those. And then what we can do is let's go into the sample. Oh, renamed it new sample. Didn't even keep my name. Lame. So we're going to rename it hat again. Whoa, gat. What the heck? Hat. I want a hat. cool, like the hat I'm wearing right now. And let's go and let's do a, so they have this volume fade out thing. It could be pretty useful here. One thing that would be cool is if you draw envelopes over the thing. I don't know if you can. I've never looked it up. I know you can with the modulation tab, but I wonder if there's a tool. Maybe there's a tool that does that. So cool. So we have a really basic thing. Let's add in some chords, yeah? So let's add in, I'm feeling square waves because I want to keep it simple. So I'm going to go back to my basic samples, square. I'm going to load one up. And on my next track, this will be my chords, right? I name this chords. And here, in order to play a chord, I'm going to need 3 note columns. So I can hit plus here, or while my cursor, my orange box, is in the note column, I'm going to hit shift, control, or control shift, over, because I want 3 notes for my chord. So let's customize my sound first before I start writing with it. I'm going to turn off edit mode so I can audition. So that's the sound I have. I'm going to go F3. I'm going to pitch it up 336, 3 octaves. I'm also going to turn on interpolation, which is it's just going to make it much more high quality, basically oversampling. And I'm going to EQ it right off the bat. And whoops. And I want to get rid of some of the high end and some of the low. I want some reverb and a chorus. So I just type in chorus. I want the depth down, the rate up a bit. And the feedback. That's good for the feedback. And reverb. They have a really cool one called Space Echo. So that's a part of the doofers. So that's like a tool you can that was bundled with it. It's like a combination of effects that have been like just put together in a convenient way. But I'm not going to mess with it right now. And it looks so cool on our vector scope, whatever this is called. If it will tell me. I forgot what those are called. It shows you your stereo width. That's what it does. Okay, so now we're going to add in our notes here. So I'm going to put an A and a C. And I'm going to hit escape and go up an octave. It's very loud. Let's take it down. Maybe take the chorus depth down more. So, okay, just had to do some sound adjustments there. It's still not perfect, but it's better. Now, here I'm going to put an E. So I prefer the MIDI keyboard for this, but you could totally use your keyboard and go over. This is where using tab and shift tab become very useful. So there we have that. And then we'll come down and we'll add our F chord. So I could just simply slap the F chord down. And then we'll slap down our G chord. And it puts on all the notes for me right there, so it's great. And if we play it. So now we could add perhaps a bell. And so for the bell, let's use a triangle wave just to keep it simple. And we'll also pitch this one up. So we'll go whoop, 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 transpose 36, and we'll add a modulation. We'll add a ADSR envelope, and I want my attack to be very quick, my sustain to be nothing, and my release to be nothing, and maybe a little bit of a release. And so high up, it's going to sound. And let's add a pitch envelope. So let's add one for the pitch, change the attack. And bring this, oh, whoops, not the sustain. Put that back at 0. So the pitch envelope is just going to tell the pitch to go down and then to go down some more. So you see, wow, that's so cool. Let's make it a lot faster though. Let's just not do that. And just add it in there, and we'll add some verb this way. There's better ways to apply verb, but we'll deal with them later. So we'll do every... This is going to be more melodic, so it's a little less regular. We'll do an A. I'm just thinking of notes in the A major chord right now. And then we'll do a da-da-dun, which would be 8th notes. Put that there. Now I'm going to hit Shift space bar to start where I am. I'm not sure if that'll really work though. I think it does, even though the chord, cool. Let's go adjust the envelope for that one spot. So I'm going to go back to the modulation tab, visit the volume envelope. That's a lot better. It's because right here they were overlapping. That's why it sounded sort of muddy. And that's actually, that sounds pretty cool. And so we could do some cool filter sweeps and stuff and begin embellishing and using more commands and effects. But I think you get the idea of entering notes. At least you're beginning to see the workflow. And you see, it's not that complicated. A lot of it is actually other stuff you have to configure. And it could take quite a while. But now we could open up our pattern editor and we say, oh, look at all these things. And we could say, let's add a couple of these. And we could start with our ARP, which I named RO. I did not see that earlier. Cool, so we have our ARP, and then this is why you want to name it, because when you're over here, this is way more confusing. But let's say that we want these down here, and then we want to repeat this. Maybe have a phrase going on there, and then we could introduce this stuff slowly. And so if I have this on, it'll loop through this pattern continuously. So if I were to scroll down some and then play it, so you see it's on the same block. So you want to be careful. Watch out for this guy. It'll get you. Also, if you have them dragged out, it'll loop through like these three and then go back up to the top. So that's really useful. There's a way to make only specific lines play too. If you hit enter on your numeric keypad, it'll bring up a little loop editor, and you can change these values in fractional. So right now it's going to play 1/4 of your pattern. You could have it play like 1/7 or wow. It's pretty crazy. I don't use this very often, but you can if you want. A lot of people I notice use the patterns as like not whole patterns. Like they build phrases out of pieces of the pattern because it's literally more convenient, because then you can hit control up down to get to specific phrases within your musical sentence, your melody. But anyways, now we'd have this, right? And then right there, I'm thinking I'd have like a boo bump. We could add that in. This is a little more advanced. But what I want to do is I want to add another triangle wave. This one I want to have, I'm using my mouse. Oh my gosh. I'm going to pitch it up 36. And it doesn't matter what track I call it on, but I want to be careful because if I put effects on it, and I don't want those effects on this particular sound, it'd be bad. I'm going to put a G. I want it down an octave. I'm going to hit shift over, will select a line. So you see shift over, I just selected my line. So I'm going to subtract it an octave. And then I'm going to tell it decrease in pitch by 1 tone. And then when you hit D00, it will continue to decrease in pitch by 1 tone. So to go boo, sound like this. Boo. what it sounds like. Oh, my pattern's off. I'm just gonna drag it over. Excuse me. So now, that's a little low. Maybe I should have left it up higher. It's not selected. Got to select it. Plus 12. Okay, so let's save right here. And it's repeating. Of course, we'd write in a better melody. And here we can make this more interesting by perhaps changing the inversion. So right here, I go to the, whoops. My keyboard focus is on here right now. So that's why my up and down arrows were behaving funny. So I'm going to move it over here. And then here, instead of having to go to G, let's edit that. Let's have it go to B. Whoops. And make sure you're on the correct instrument. Oh, and the correct octave too. Holy smokes. What octave am I supposed to be on? 4? 4. So we'll go 1, 2, 3. That'd be kind of nice. And then here, we could arrive and make these all go up an octave. I don't know why I didn't just hit shift down. But okay, I mean, shift home, shift end. And then we could replace this one with our second variation, make it more interesting. We could even change this one too. And then we'll bring this one up an octave as well. And then here, instead of going dun-dun-dun, we could have it do something different. Whoops, make sure you're on the triangle. Ha 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 ha. Undo that. Oh, I forgot my line edit. That's fine. Go up another octave. Let's move this. I'm just gonna copy it. I'm gonna actually just cut Ctrl X, Ctrl V. That might be cool. Oh, and we see we have that our notes continue because there's no note off command on these guys, right? And so you'll see this come up. So what you need to do is you need to add note off commands. And once you make one of these, you can just copy and paste it to all the other things that carry over. So we just told all the notes to turn off. That way when they loop, we just don't have that problem. And then here, going down again, that's just so repetitive. Whoops. And then we could use effects to further embellish some of this, but I'm going to call it good right there. I'm going to save this because I actually think it's pretty cool. I'll name it as 20, what is this? I think this is 26 for me. Between my laptop and this. It's hard to keep track. I'll name it, I I don't know, tutorial. Tutorial demo song. Oh yeah. If you have any questions about this, let me know. I hope you're starting to get a feel for just the workflow here. Yeah, and of course, I was making chiptune, but you can make anything you want. It could be drum and bass. And we didn't add plugins. I sort of deliberately avoided plugins for now. It's not that crazy, but I want to use mostly Renoise stuff. If you have any questions, again, let me know. Subscribe. Support me on Patreon. I deeply appreciate it. And have a blessed day.